Florida Atlantic, otherwise known as FAU, is coming off an absolutely insane college basketball season. At a school's best 31-3, FAU absolutely tore it up in Conference USA regular season and playoff play. What makes this season even more unique is that it's only FAU's second March Madness appearance in the history of their program and their first since 2002. What's up, guys, and welcome to the first Roy Talks video. This is my first video on the channel and a very special one to me. As an FAU alum, being able to see this team live in person is something I'll never be able to forget. Without further ado, let's deep dive into the history of FAU and more about why you shouldn't sleep on this team in March Madness. Florida Atlantic University is a rather young athletic program when in comparison to rival interstate Florida universities. The school was founded in 1961 but did not officially open its doors until October of 1964. Although the school was opened in 1964, they did not play their first competitive collegiate basketball game until a mere 24 years later as a Division II school against local rivals Palm Beach Atlantic University, winning 111-62. In its inaugural season, FAU would finish at 9-19, which also included an agonizing 12-game losing streak. FAU would spend a couple more seasons in Division II, going 21-7, 15-13, 15-13, and 3-24, all under Tim Loomis as their head coach. In the 1993-1994 season, Florida Atlantic would officially compete as a Division I school, coached by Tim Loomis in the Atlantic Sun Conference. FAU would face their rivals, University of Miami, who are only a 45-minute car ride away on I-95. Well, that's pending there's no traffic, and as someone that lives in South Florida, there is never no traffic going to Miami. FAU would go on to lose that game 85-53. Unfortunately, losing became familiar around the program as the Owls went on to finish their D1 season at 3-24. Loomis would leave following the conclusion of the 94-95 season, in which FAU had an okay, but not great 9-18 season. After the departure of Loomis, Kevin Billerman would take the head coaching position for 4 years, finishing with a 36-71 record. Many of those losses coming in his last 2 seasons in charge, where the Owls would finish 5-22 and 6-20. So I don't continue to bore you with more history lessons that may make you feel like you're back in high school. We're going to jump around to the more important details like the 2002 March Madness Owls, and then finish with the historic 2023 FAU Owls. In 2002, FAU would be crowned the Atlantic Sun Conference Tournament champions, finishing the season 19-12 and 13-7 in conference play. The Owls would go on a postseason run, defeating Jacksonville University, Jacksonville State University, and lastly, Georgia State University in a nail-biting 76-75 win. For the first time ever, FAU clinched a bid into the March Madness NCAA tournament. In a super tough first-round draw, FAU as a 15 seed would face the University of Alabama as a number 2 seed. Although many expected the first-time entrants to roll over, they admirably put up a decent fight, losing just 86-78. After this season, things would not get better, and for the most part, mediocrity became a familiar tale, with the exception being in 2010-2011 when the FAU Owls went 21-11 under head coach Mike Jarvis. Let's enter Coach Dusty May, or as John Rothstein would say, Dusty, we sleep in May, after the Owls' insane 2023 season, of course. Coach Dusty May would be named the newest head coach of the team in 2018. Initially, Dusty May served as the undergraduate student manager on Bob Knight's Indiana University program for 4 years. This served as a pivotal point where Dusty got to absorb a ton of knowledge from a historic coach. May would then go on to serve as assistants for Eastern Michigan, Murray State, University of Alabama Birmingham, Louisiana Tech, and then the University of Florida before landing the head coaching job with FAU in 2018. When May first landed the job, I do not think staff from the athletic department, students, alumni, and more could predict how he would absolutely transform the FAU basketball program. For a guy that had no previous head coaching experience, this would be a major test for a young coach, mainly because Dusty May's first official game as a coach of FAU did not exactly go to plan. You see, FAU would go on to lose in an exhibition match against Division II local private school Lynn University. Fast forward some time, and Dusty May officially became the most winningest coach in FAU history. Dusty May currently sits with an overall record of 97-59 as the head coach at FAU and has managed to coach the Owls to a positive record in each of his 5 seasons at charge. Dusty went on to win Conference USA Coach of the Year and is currently in the semifinals for National Coach of the Year. Heading into the 2022-2023 season, the Owls are projected to finish just 5th in Conference USA play after a slightly above 500 season in 2021 at 19-15. However, it is easy easy to look back and think that this projection going into the 2022-2023 season was probably a good projection given the fact that North Texas and University of Alabama Birmingham had just come off very strong 21-22 campaigns. Dusty May and staff made huge additions in the NCAA transfer portal when they landed UConn transfer Jalen Gaffney, who had struggled to get game time with the rebuilding program. Once the transfer was official, FAU looked secretly dangerous due to the familiarity of return players from the 21-22 season. FAU managed to bring back 8 of their top 9 guys in their rotation, and as many know, chemistry always plays a huge role in sports. May attributed the close bond the group had and how they enjoyed playing together over the offseason. The beginning of the season proved how special this team could be when Florida Atlantic, in what many call bye games for major schools, upset the University of Florida in Gainesville 76-74. This was the first time in the program's history that they managed to defeat the Gators. What happened next? Oh, nothing, aside from the fact that the Owls went on an historic 20-game winning streak, which at the time was the longest streak in Division I men's basketball. During this streak, they broke into the AP Top 25 for the first time in the program's history, climbing as high as 19th at one point. The Owls finished the season with a record of 31-3 and 18-2 in conference play. It should go without saying that 30 wins for any college basketball program is insane, and there are not many schools that can say they have accomplished it. Not only did they win 31 games, but they managed to remain a perfect 17-0 at home throughout this. In the most recent AP poll pulled on March 13th, FAU finished number 25 in the top 25. Just one spot behind their first round matchup, Memphis, who is riding a high after beating the University of Houston in the AAC final. What stands out about this team is the way that they play and consistently won basketball games early on in their deep run. For a good majority of the season, May had 2 of his best players, Elijah Martin and Janelle Davis, coming off the bench as their 6th and 7th men. As crazy as this sounds, it just worked. Often, FAU was able to start games well enough to the point that both of their leading scorers would come in off the bench and absolutely dominate. This is a further testament to how deep this team truly is. For some key stats about this team, FAU finished the season as the number 13 team in the net rankings with impressive stats to back it up. With a quad 1 record of 2-1, a quad 2 record of 4-2, and a perfect quad 3 and quad 4 record at 11 and 12-0, this team absolutely dominated conference and non-conference play. Another key standout, May's Owls love to play small ball. Vlad Golden, their 7'1" center, who originally played for Temple University, is the only player on the court at times over 6'4", which would lead you to think that oftentimes they get out rebounded, right? Wrong. The collective work ethic to box out on defensive and offensive rebounds leads to a ton of second chance points for this group. FAU finished 9th in NCAA D1 basketball with an average of 28.1 defensive rebounds per game. FAU finished 13th with an average of 9.8 three-pointers made per game. Another key, this team is not afraid to share the rock deep into the shot clock. They do not settle for a shot, and their offense constantly moves off the ball and work it until they are satisfied. With that being said, here are some key players to look out for this FAU team. Elijah Martin, who was named All-Conference USA First Team, averaged 3.2 points per game with 5.4 rebounds and 1.5 assists. Janelle Davis, who was First Team All-Conference and 6th Player of the Year, averaged 13.5 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 1.5 assists. Vlad Golden, their center, was 3rd Team All-Conference, averaging 10.6 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 41 blocks all season. Some personal favorites for me, Michael Forrest and Nick Boyd are some streaky three-point shooters. Do not let them get hot. The unique thing to this team is the fact that there is not a focus on one player scoring the ball. 5 players average around 9 or more points per game, with remaining players like Rosado, Weatherspoon, and Jalen Gaffney scoring around 5 points per game. Knowing this, let's look forward to where FAU currently sits in the March Madness bracket. After winning Conference USA, the Owls were placed as a number 9 seed in the bracket against toughest 8 seed, the Memphis Tigers. As I mentioned earlier, Memphis is currently riding a high after defeating UH, a team who was missing Marcus Sasser, their main scorer, in the championship game. Nonetheless, Memphis finished their season at 26-8 with a 13-2 home record and a 7-5 away record. A neutral site should be a perfect setting to see these two mid-major programs battle out for a second-round matchup against the East number 1 seed Purdue. With that being said, FAU is a team that should not be slept on as a mid-major that could make a deep run. How do you think FAU is going to do? Let me know what you think in the comments below.